about SpiraTeam from Inflectra, discussing what it does, its functionality, and its benefits, both generally and also in this specific case with respect to how it compares to Jira from Atlassian. And then we're going to be talking a little bit about SpiraPlan, which is an extended version of SpiraTeam, which may be right for certain customers. And so I want to give you the option to see not only if you adopt SpiraTeam, what you're getting, but also if you decide down the road to go to SpiraPlan, what the differences are. I'm going to talk a little bit about Jira Server. We have quite a few customers that have come to us and coming to us because they don't want to necessarily go to a SaaS solution. And so I've got a little bit of an update specifically on what's going on the Atlassian ecosystem. I'm going to talk about migration as well, how that can be done. And I do have a shout out for some of our partners and customers who've helped with that. And then I'm going to go into a live demo. So the first 4 bits will be in PowerPoint, then we'll have the live app demo, and then we'll have Q&A. So first of all, who are we? Who is Inflectra? So I just wanted to mention that as a company, our whole mission is to really help you, our customers, deliver quality software faster and with lower risk. And I'd like to really focus on those 3 words: quality, faster, and risk. Because what we find is a lot of customers, when they come to look at our suite, they are struggling with how to balance those 3 different things. They can deliver things at a high speed with agile methodologies, using DevOps, CI/CD. They've got that piece down, but they're worried about quality suffering. They want to sleep well at night. They don't want to wake up with, a P1 bug. They don't want to wake up with a major infrastructure issue. How do they keep quality high whilst being nimble and agile? And as we're all realizing in the world, it's a complex, dangerous world out there. They really want to understand what their risk is and prepare for that so they don't get nasty surprises. So I think if you had to sum it up at a personal level, we want you to sleep well at night, not have nasty surprises, and deliver software faster whilst doing that. As a company, these are our core values. And we live by these values. And as a customer, or hopefully prospective customer, you hopefully will have experienced some of these yourselves. First of all, our products. We really are passionate about our products. You'll see that hopefully today from me and Teresa. If you try the product and work with our support team or any of our account managers, we have great passion for what we do. You as our customers are what we're here for. We really want to build a great experience, build a set of tools and functionality and different integrations that make your life easier, and things that you really need, not just what the industry is saying you think you need, or a Gartner press release says that everyone should be doing. We listen to you, and our roadmap is driven by what your actual needs are. We also believe in having a team that you want to work with and love working with, in fact. And if you work with us over several years, you will work with the same people year after year. We've got very, very low personnel turnover. The same team that you have today will be the same team 3 years from now. We want to make sure we have these long-term relationships with you, our customers. And to enable those 2 first core values, I really think the second 2 core values are part of that, having a great workplace and also helping our community. We work with a lot of educational institutions and nonprofits to help them improve their quality, teaching their students how to do better project management, better testing. And we work with universities and nonprofits around the world to help spread the word, and also bringing people into both our company and other parts of the industry to become technologists. So we really believe in these 4 core values, and they infuse what both our product and our team does. So as a company, this is the range of functionality that we offer. Everything from requirements management and ideation, coming up with the new designs for new systems. And that, when I say requirements management, it could be anything from a software product, a website, it could be an ERP system, supply chain, it could be a medical device, it could be pharmaceuticals, it could be, and often is increasingly, a hardware software hybrid, like an IoT device, or software-defined manufacturing. We're seeing clients across those different industries need everything from requirements management all the way through to support and maintenance, and we cover that entire end-to-end. So coming up with the idea, designing it, developing it, testing it, building it, assessing the risk, deploying it, supporting it, that whole end-to-end of the life cycle of an idea, that's what we're about, helping you do that with the lowest risk, the highest quality, and getting it time to market quickly. So that's what we do as a company. Why are we here today? Well, one of the things is we want to provide an alternative to one of the tools that's out there on the market that a lot of people have been using for many years, which is Atlassian Jira. And for the record, we do integrate with Jira as well. So we have many customers that use SpiraTest, our test management tool, with Jira, and even some clients using SpiraTeam and SpiraPlan with Jira also. So it doesn't have to be a complete alternative, but we have seen which I'll talk about later, some people looking for an alternative to Jira because of certain functionality differences or complexity, management, the amount of plugins you need. We'll talk about some of that, as well as the fact they're phasing out their non-SaaS product. So there's lots of reasons why you might be looking for alternatives. So I want to talk a little bit about our suite and what alternative it provides. And as I mentioned, the real benefit from our platform is helping you sleep better at night, preventing critical failures in your systems. That's what we really want. If we do that, we've succeeded, and you've succeeded. So this is the Inflectra suite of products. In the middle is our hub, which is the Spira platform. And the Spira platform does come in 3 flavors: Spira Test, which is the test management version, Spira Team and Plan, which is the full suite. I'll talk about the differences in Team and Plan a bit later, but you can think of it as basically Spira Team would be for the teams. It replaces things like Jira, whereas Spira Plan is for an enterprise and will be replacing something more like a Jira Align, formerly Agile Craft, where you have portfolio management and multiple large projects working together for large programs. So if you're managing a Scrum team or a Kanban team, probably Spira Team is the right fit. If you're managing a scaled Agile team doing Safe or Nexus or Scrum of Scrums, then something like Spira Plan is probably the better solution. But again, we'll go a bit more into the details later. And then to round out our portfolio, we have a code management solution called TaraVault. It's a Git code management solution that can integrates with Spira. We can also integrate with GitHub and GitLab or other code management tools of your choice. And then we have our IT service management desk, Chronodesk, which is used for customers looking to move off of Jira Service Desk, and Spira Capture, which is our exploratory testing tool. Then lastly, to round out the functionality, we do have Rapise, which does both test automation and it does RPA. And that's very useful for clients doing a lot of heavy duty regression testing or need to do a lot of automated testing for apps or building plugins for things like Salesforce or ServiceNow, where they've got a lot of complex testing to do or complex process automation to do. So that together rounds out the Inflectra suite. And if you look at that in terms of what we do in the industry, our whole business model is that we can bridge these gaps between the right-hand side and the left-hand side of this diagram. And what does that mean? Well, typically, everyone wants to go market fast, want to have software delivered to the users quickly. We're using methodologies like Agile, Scrum, Kanban, DevOps. Is now 3 years old. CI/CD. It started as CI, now it's in CD. Delivering functionality as quickly as possible, automated pipelines, smoke tests, unit tests, all of that in the pipeline, super agile, moving from sprints to literally delivering functionality as soon as it's available on the right-hand side. What we're seeing, unfortunately, though, on the left-hand side is as we release functionality faster and we're able to reduce the bottlenecks in the development side of things, it's all the non-development side of things that are slowing us down. So if we're delivering a complex ERP solution, we've got to think about the data migration needs. We've got to think about the potentially legal, financial compliance needs. Do we have to make sure that we've got all of our SOC 2 compliance documentation done? If we're working in life sciences, is our FDA documentation in place? So what we see is, in fact, increasingly the bureaucracy of the non-development aspects is slowing down our projects. And so the Inflectra suite helps you mirror those together, especially when you're looking at these mission critical systems, both in the pure software space and also in the hardware software space as well. So our platform, as well as giving developers and testers a really fast, agile platform for developing software, it gives managers, program managers, and all risk managers, all the people who unfortunately do a lot of the stuff that's needed to release software into the production environment, they can keep up at the same pace as the development stack. And some of the functionality we have in Spira that really makes this happen is the end-to-end traceability, the fact we can track traceability from beginning to end, the fact that we have data privacy, security, we could do different deployment options, which I'll talk about, the fact that we have a single platform which has all of your information in one place. So we have your requirements, your tests, your code, your builds, your pull requests, risks, defects, all of that's in one place. And some of the things we're looking to do this year, actually, for customers that want to do this, is to actually use that rich data set to begin to do predictive analytics using AI. We've got some partnerships we're putting in place to actually look at that data and use it to actually determine where things are going to fail before they fail. So when we talk about risk management later on in the demonstration, you'll see how we can track risks in the system and manage them and plan for them. But the future vision of the company and the product will be using AI and other deep learning systems to identify risks before they happen. So all this rich information is linked together in a really important and meaningful way, which really helps you make great decisions. And for project and program managers, this functionality that we have spans different methodologies. So if you're in an organization where you have teams using different tools because they have different methodologies, you can have everyone working from the same sheet of music. So you can have teams working in Agile with Scrum or Kanban flavors. They can work on Waterfall, even hybrid methodologies, all working together in the same system. And the other piece is we are working increasingly towards integrating our Spira pieces together. So as customers and suppliers both use, hopefully, our products, we're developing what's called SpiraNet to tie them together so you can actually have integration across the entire software value chain. So instead of everyone having their own Jira instance, for example, which is completely stovepiped, the vision is we'll all have people using our platform with other tools as well, but it can be all integrated together. So sharing information to understand where are the risks, where are the dependencies across different companies. So moving on from that, here's just some quick overviews of what's in SpiraTeam. We'll be doing a live application demo, so don't worry about this too much. The SpiraTeam has dashboards, reports, and boards built in right from the get-go. So you have a single piece of music where you can see all of your requirements, your projects, your schedules, quality information, all of that on a single dashboard. We have agile boards, which I'll show you. We also have Gantt and waterfall charts as well. So whatever you need as a manager, you can manage different types of project all in the same system without needing different plugins for those different methodologies. You don't need a plugin for agile or a plugin for a requirements document or a plugin for testing. It's all natively in the system. For developers, we've got code management functionality built in, whether you're using GitHub or GitLab or TaraVault or any other code management solution. We've got integrations with the different IDEs you're using. We've got integration with the different code management solutions and with the different pipelines. So you can track your code, your pull requests, and all your activities in your different tools and never have to worry about moving from one to the other. It's completely seamless. You can assign a task in Spira, go into Visual Studio, and you can act on that task, commit the code, see the code change as you can see here, see what it impacts, make sure the tests are going to run, the pipeline runs, see where the failures are, and then iterate. So for developers, it really reduces the friction of having to manage tasks and code, and you can focus more time on development, less on all of the management stuff that you don't like doing. For testers, Spira has a world-class test management solution from Spira Test built in. That lets you do all of your exploratory testing built in, manual testing, and integration for automated testing. I'll show you some of the screens later on, but we do have integration with some of the key frameworks out there, for example, with Robot Framework, all the unit test frameworks, Cypress, Playwright, Selenium, as well as integration with various commercial tools, load testing tools, and of course our own Rapise test automation tool as well. And going back to our philosophy of being an open platform, even though we do have our own test automation tool, we have 30 or 40 different connectors for other frameworks as well. Same thing for project management. We have other plugins for things like Monday.com and ClickUp as well. So even though we have a great set of core features, we have an open platform with lots of integrations, so you don't have to be the system integrator. Another thing to mention is, as I mentioned earlier on, we are methodology agnostic. We have functionality built in specifically for agile projects, waterfall / V model, traditional projects, as well as hybrid. And you can mix and match even on the same project. And that can be quite common where you have a hardware team that's, for example, building an IoT device, and maybe some of the hardware stuff is done in a more traditional waterfall fashion, just because you have to release things physically. But then the onboard software is being developed in an agile fashion. You can marry those two together very easily. Now, how does it compare with the Atlassian ecosystem? Because that's obviously why we're here today. We've got a web page you can go to on our website. The URL is down there. This is just a screenshot from it. This describes feature by feature what you would need from Atlassian, which of our products compares to that, and what you would need. And typically, to summarize it, if you're using Jira software today with something like Tempo and something like Zephyr or X-Ray, SpiraTeam by itself would be more than sufficient to carry all that functionality in a single platform. If you are using something like Jira Align to do portfolio and program management, you might want to look at SpiraPlan. If you're doing any kind of risk management with a plugin, then you might also want SpiraPlan. But that's typically the way it lays out. But again, feel free to go to that webpage and look in detail. Here's a snapshot of all the different integrations we have. We actually have over 70 different integrations, and they do cover different parts of the DevOps ecosystem: IDEs, CI/CD, test automation, process automation, defect tracking and project management, load testing, unit testing, and of course, import migration. And we'll talk about migration a little bit later, specifically about Jira. Now, in terms of deployment, one of the reasons we've had lots of customers come to us in the past 2 years to look at Spira, beyond the functionality, of course, and the ease of use and the single platform to do a lot of what they're doing in multiple different places. But the other reason was obviously because they wanted choice of how it was hosted. So with SpiraTeam or Spira Plan, you host it your way. So first of all, if you literally want it on a physical or virtual server on your environment, absolutely fine. We provide it as an installable product. It can be installed on a single server situation, pair of servers, on a load balanced cluster, whatever level of deployment you need for your scale, it's available. So on-premise, 100%. Secondly, we've got quite a few customers that are now looking towards private cloud. Now, that could be literally a third-party private cloud, but it could also be one of the public clouds, but their own instance of it. So we have customers that are looking to use Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure, and rather than having us host it as SaaS, they want all of their apps integrated on their own platform. So that way they get the encryption keys, they control all of the aspects of it from a security and compliance standpoint. Also, if they're, for example, using AWS GovCloud or the Azure equivalent, they might want to control that and have their personnel manage the infrastructure layer. So you have the ability of deploying it on private cloud. And for those customers in Europe, we also have our partner PTA that also offers a private cloud that's completely hosted in Europe with a German headquartered company as well. So there's some other use cases where we've had clients that want it to be hosted in a cloud, just not Amazon or Azure. So that's another option. And then the third option, of course, is we do have our SaaS option. And we do have hosting in different regions, whether it's the US and Canada, Ireland, or Asia Pacific regions. And each region is geo-locked. So data that's entered in the EU region never leaves the EU. Same thing with Asia Pac, same thing with the US and Canada, which are two separate regions. So if you're doing healthcare in Canada, it mustn't go to the US. If you're doing healthcare in the US, it mustn't go to Canada or outside the US. So we do have these different geo-locked regions that you can control, and there's no extra cost for that. And the other big thing we have is 100% feature parity and API compatibility. And this is really important because we've had some customers that, again, are used to Atlassian, where they've gone from Jira Server to cloud and the plugins don't work, either they don't work at all, the data is different, or there's different limitations, and they've really struggled with that migration. We can migrate customers to and from the cloud in 24 hours. It's super easy. We've done it for many customers. And you might wonder, well, why would you want to do that? Why would a customer keep changing their minds? Well, sometimes they start out on the cloud because they want to try the functionality or run it with one team. And then their enterprise IT is like, okay, we now want to bring it in-house because we're going to roll it out to all teams. And then a couple of years later, their IT department is like, well, we're actually moving everything to the cloud now from an enterprise IT standpoint. So we're going back to the cloud. So we've actually had customers go through that where they've gone cloud to start at a team level, on-premise for enterprise, and then back to cloud for enterprise. So really gives you that flexibility. As the people have different changes in infrastructure or IT policy, we can support those different use cases very easily. Okay, so let's talk about Spira Plan next. So I've talked about SpiraTeam, what it offers. If you are looking to use Spira on an enterprise scale and you want to be able to manage large numbers of programs or projects, and you want to be able to track them together, then Spira Plan is probably the solution for you. It offers scale agile functionality, meaning that as well as having products and projects with backlogs and requirements and tests, you now have program backlogs, and you can track program requirements and program enablers, program non-functional requirements, track all of those at a program level. You can track program milestones, and you can link the different project level items up to those program items. So that way you can track program backlogs and link the product backlog to the program. And what that looks like is something like this, where let's say you have a program that has what we call capabilities, and those capabilities may fall into like epics and features. And then you might have those program features that link to a product level requirement or a user story or a feature, whatever you've structured your backlog as. And you can now track that one feature at a program level to multiple different teams. And that's really useful because if you have, for example, a team that's working on a mobile app, and another team that's working on a web app, and another team that's working on some kind of chat bot. Maybe all three are different channels for the same user functionality. And you want to tell the board, we're going to have this new online functionality available in Q1, and they want to announce all three pieces of functionality are going to go live at the end of Q1. Well, if the chatbot's running late, but the other two are on schedule, you would really like to know that so you could potentially load balance your resources, move people around, whatever you want to do, but you want to have visibility. And this functionality makes that kind of top-down planning really easy. Or if you stand up a new piece of functionality, you might stand up a whole new project team. So you can do that top-down planning before you even have a product team. So that's something that SpiraPlan would offer. This is what it will look like. We'll show you in the live app in a minute, but it has that kind of functionality. And similarly for milestones. So it lets you plan program level backlogs, both the features, which we call capabilities, and the due dates, which we call milestones. They're like releases. So that's a little bit about SpiraTeam and Plan. Moving on then to the Atlassian ecosystem, what's going on. As you know, Jira is basically, Atlassian is moving away from the cloud. They started this journey a few years ago, and actually the deadline is coming up very close. So as of February this year, you'll no longer be able to get Jira Server. And if you look at this is the metrics we grabbed of who's using Jira. A lot of people are still using Jira Server. It's amazing how many people we talk to are still on server. Some have moved to data center. Some are on server still deciding whether to go to data center or go to cloud. Even if they go to data center, the general feeling has been that Atlassian's decision is really building out their cloud platform. And that's their decision. That makes sense for them. They want to have a single platform on the cloud, which they want to invest a lot of resources in. And I think because their platforms were developed differently, their server platform, which is really their data center platform, has got a completely different technical architecture than their cloud platform. It makes sense that it's difficult to maintain them both. We designed ours to be the same architecture with some differences, but primarily the same foundation with just some slight differences to handle cloud and on-premise. And so for us at Inflectra, we've got the ability to support both platforms ongoing because we architected it that way from day one. So I think that's one of the reasons. So a lot of customers are either staying on data server and going to move to cloud or something completely different, or they're going to data center, but still thinking long-term that may not be the long-term solution for them. So anyways, that's what's going on there. And so the opportunities, as we can see now, we're at February 24. We first heard about this, like you did, probably in 2021, when they first stopped selling the new server licenses. In 2022, you couldn't upgrade or downgrade your tiers. And in 2023, you could only renew existing licenses. You can't, buy any more new ones or upsell or down or to more licenses. So you can only renew what you have. So as of February this year, which is literally a month away, it will be end of support. So people are now looking for alternatives. And as they look for alternatives, they're looking for not just alternatives for the functionality that we offer, but also some of the other companies in our partner network. For example, we partner with GitHub and GitLab, so many customers are looking towards using Spira with one of those solutions as well. So that way you get an overall capability that's bigger than the Atlassian ecosystem. Some of the things that people are looking for when they do come to us, though, when they're looking for tools that can replace what Jira offers, they want something that's framework agnostic, as I mentioned. They're looking for something that's easy to use. They want something that they can stand up pretty easily. They're looking for traceability because Jira does offer that with the associations. They need something that's going to be both from a business user and from a technical user valuable. So we're focusing on the Jira software customers. So if you've got Jira customers that are using Jira for, I would say, project management outside of the development space, for managing conferences, there are plenty of tools that people are looking at, like the Monday.coms, the ClickUps, that can do a purely business type of project management, task management. Where Spira really is shining is where you have users that have Jira software and you're using it for managing project management for development, engineering, systems integration, all of the technical kinds of projects. That's what we're focusing on. People are also looking for alternatives where they've got different hosting options. Atlassian has a very good integration architecture where you can write plugins, you can integrate with other tools. So people are looking for tools that can do that as well. Dashboards are a really important piece. And then some of the things that we offer, which are not in the Atlassian platform, the concurrent users, the ability to have the built-in compliance functionality, documentation, the traceability, electronic signatures, some of the functionality that people have missed in Jira. And then lastly, one of the things I think that people really look for when they come to a new vendor is the support and the company behind it. And so when you talk to us, you will, and if you try one of our products, our support comes with our product. You actually get to try out our support and our team as well as the product itself. So if you sign up for a trial and you have questions about how to integrate it with something, our support team is there for you. So I think this is really the key for us is this functionality is what we provide, which lets you move from something like Atlassian to us. The other thing I would say is if you are looking to move to Spira, look at your plugin ecosystem. If you have a lot of plugins right now in Jira, it's a good opportunity to look at them and see which ones you need, see which ones you're using, see what functionality you need, and see why you're using them. Maybe they were bought years ago, and maybe some of that functionality either isn't needed or is in Spira already, or it's one of our partners. So we can help you with that, some of that discussion. If you need help with any of that, both Inflectra and our partners are here to help you as well. So how do you move off of Jira? Well, that's very easy. We've got some tools to do that, and then we have some assistance services to go with that. So depending on the complexity of your installation, we have migration tools available. We also have migration assistance available. And then we have basically our partner network, which helps us provide implementation services as well as training on the new platform. We also have our Inflectra campus, which gives you out-of-the-box training as well. And all of that is backed by our technical support team, which you get free with all of our products and no limits on how much of it as well. So we have first of all, a simple migration tool for Jira to Spira. This is the one that we provide as for the sort of basic cases. This was developed in-house by Inflectra. It's got a simple GUI. You point it at Jira, you point it at Spira. It handles both Jira Cloud and Jira Server / data center. You connect to the URL. You tell it what data you want. Do I want requirements? Do I want tasks? In defects, whatever it is, you map those to the corresponding items in Spira. You push a button, you get some coffee, you come back, and it's finished, and everything's migrated for you. And that's the simple case. Now, then, we also have a more advanced tool, and for this, I'd like to shout out to, I think some of them are on the call today, actually, our partner Tieto Every and our customer Saab. They've been instrumental in this advanced migration tool. And the reason they built this advanced migration tool is they wanted to take a system where in Jira they had multiple projects, and they were using, I think, roadmaps to be able to map project level, cross-project features in other projects, and they wanted to migrate those into Spira plan as capabilities, and they wanted to break up the projects into programs and projects, and they wanted to be able to configure it in ways that this simple tool doesn't do. This simple tool is really great at take project in Jira, make it project in Spira, and do it without a lot of configuration. This advanced tool, which is an alternative, this one lets you do a more advanced migration where you can say, take this project and this project and this project, combine these bits into a program, these bits into a project, do this with that piece of data. And so we do have this advanced migration tool, which gives you a lot more flexibility. So depending on your migration needs, we have both of these two options now available. Oh, and then of course, both of these options are backed both by our technical support team. And then of course, if you need help in doing the migration for you, Tieto is one of our partners in Europe that can help with that if you're based in Europe. If you're based in the US, we have other partners, or in Asia Pac, we have other partners. So we do have different companies that work with us that have done this migration before for other customers. And so that way, if you need assistance, you're not on your own, we're here for you. So the next portion of this is actually the application demo. Oh,
Just
sorry.
one more question too before you get into the live application. This was in the chat box. Does the tool allow for integrating with Azure DevOps for source control management and testing as well?
Great question. Yes. So we do have plugins for Azure DevOps, several different ones. So we have integration. So actually, I'm going to go into the live application over here. I'm just going to exit out of PowerPoint. Okay. So Spira, and I'll put my camera on so I can say hello. Yeah, so SpiraTeam and Plan, both versions, do have integration with, again, Jira we mentioned, but also Azure DevOps. And we integrate with Azure DevOps in a few different ways. So we can integrate, first of all, at the work item level. So in this demo, when you see me working with the requirements and tasks and incidents, which we call defects, we can integrate those with Azure DevOps work items. So if you're planning in Spira, you can push items to DevOps. So a bug could be fixed by a developer. From a source code standpoint, we can integrate with the source code repositories in ADO. And just to clarify, I should probably clarify here, if you're on our cloud version, the Inflectra SaaS version, then we integrate with the Git repositories on Azure DevOps. If you're using the on-premise version of Spira, you have the ability to do not just that, but also the old school TFS format repositories. So there is a slight difference there, that if you are using the old school TFS non-Git style ADO repositories, sorry if that's a mouthful, then you can do that, but that does require the on-premise version. That's one of those small differences we do have. mainly from a licensing standpoint. We can't host the ADO stuff on the ADO old school on our cloud. So that's the one difference. But we can integrate both kinds of TFS/ADO repository, and we also have integration with ADO pipelines. So if you run a pipeline in ADO, you can integrate that as well and have the pipeline report back any test results and information. So hopefully that answered the question.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam.
Great. Excellent. And we even have a recent news article just to mention that where we actually had some projects in Spira integrating with ADO, some projects integrating with Jira, in fact, and we had our program management functionality bringing all of the data together. So although the focus of this is really looking at SpiraTeam and Plan as an alternative/replacement for Jira, we have many customers using it with Jira. So it's never all or one thing. It could be both. So we're allowing the live application, and I'm going to give you an overview of the application. It's not going to be every single feature and every single screen. That will probably be too much for today. So do bear in mind that if you want to see more of the product, feel free to sign up for a trial version. We are doing other webinars where we're going to some of the new features as well. So just to orient you in Spira, so this is Spira Plan, not SpiraTeam. So it has all the functionality. SpiraTeam looks very similar, but it has slightly less features. That's the main difference. It's the same UI, just a few things are different. So when you go into Spira, you'll notice right from the beginning, in this main drop-down, that's our workspace selector, and we have 3 kinds of workspace. We have what are called products. So you see this library information system. That's one of our samples, and it's got a hexagon. That's a product. We call it a product. It's analogous to a Jira project. That's where the teams typically work. And if you're using SpiraTeam, that's pretty much what you have. And then Spira Plan has 2 other levels. It has programs and portfolios. Now, SpiraTeam does have programs, but not portfolios, but they don't do anything apart from collect the projects and have a dashboard. Whereas in Spira Plan, there's actually functionality. So a program, so for example, we see this sample program. We also have some samples like back office and customer experience. Programs are basically collections of projects or products, and they typically are solving a larger solution. So it's typically a system of systems. So for example, if I am building a banking system, I might collect all of my back office banking systems under back office program because maybe they share infrastructure, for example. Or it might be that I'm building a system of systems. I might be building an automotive system where I have the car might be the program, and then the different parts like the dashboard or the transmission system might be the product under it. Or if you're in professional services, we've seen this often quite common. The program could be the client. So the client might be, I don't know, client X, and each of your project teams would be a product under that client. Then we have the level above that we call a portfolio. That's a collection of programs. If you're in professional services, it could be something like all of my life science project clients, all of my banking clients, for example. So it's a grouping of clients. In the systems space, it's basically a collection of programs. So it might be a department of the company or a business area. That's typically what it looks like. In the sample version, we've got these grouped by industry just to give you different examples. So SpiraPlan has these different levels. The migration of Jira projects typically would come in as a product. If you use the advanced migration tool, you can migrate some of the high-level backlog items into the program level. But let's talk about what's in a project first of all. So in a project, and I'll use the word project and product interchangeably. We call them products. Jira calls them projects. They're basically the same thing. So in a product in Spira, you have this dashboard view. The dashboard comes in 3 flavors: general, development, and testing. This is the general view that covers items from both the other 2 views mostly, and is good for a general project manager. Development view will be someone who's a DevOps manager, focusing more on builds and pipelines. QA manager, quality engineering manager, they'll be looking more at the testing view. So what you'll see will be things like we've got a risk summary. So we can see right here at the top, what are open risks on our risk cube. We can see our risk register. We think risks are really important. It's really important to understand what are the risks in the system because that can drive new backlog items. It can also identify risks associated with your backlog items. So it's really important to have that at the top. We're then tracking project progress. These widgets here where we see the completion, that's showing you the completion of the active work in the active releases and active sprints. So for example, here you can see we're 30% complete, and that comes from this section here where you can see by release, each of my different active releases and sprints, you can see what's the percentage complete for each one and what's the time lapse. Now, in this case, we're heavily overdue by potentially thousands of days because it's a demo system and we haven't refreshed it, this particular one, for a bit. And so over time, these schedules are getting more and more out of date, and we're more and more overdue, and we're not getting any work done. So in a real situation, this will be a major issue. So in real life, what you're going to be able to do here is see for every release, you can see, are we ahead, are we behind, and what's the progress? And you can filter it down to say, I just want to see a certain release, or I just want to see a certain sprint. And when you do that, it's going to limit the information to just that one release or just that one sprint. And you have the exact same metrics now, but only for that particular sprint. And here you can see if I chose a release, this particular release has different sprints in that release, and you can see what's the percentage complete and the schedule for those different sprints. As you scroll down, you'll see other metrics like requirements coverage. Do all of my features have coverage for test cases? What's my testing looking like? I've got a lot of failures, a lot of block tests. I've got a whole bunch of tests that haven't been written, and a bunch that haven't been run. That'll be a problem. I've got my burn down charts, burn up charts, velocity, and you can add different graphs to this dashboard. This is just the default view. You can also see task burn down, and there's a Gantt chart view. We can see on a timeline what's going on, what's the different sprints, and what's my release schedule, and what's my percentage complete. It's a little hard to see on the Zoom, but if you see here, it's got this dark section, this light section. That's controlling you, showing you what percentage complete that sprint is. And all the items can be clicked on, and you can drill down, of course. Everything here drills down to lower levels. So as well as seeing this dashboard at a project level and release level, if you're using SpiraTeam, you do have a program dashboard, which would look something like this. That shows you the same information at a program level. Let me show you the general view. That will be a program view. So you're now seeing some of these same metrics now across the different projects in the program. Now I've got multiple projects. These 3 projects make up my program. You can see right here. And you can go on Spira Plan Edition, you can go all the way up to a portfolio level and an enterprise level. They go to enterprise level. That's a system-wide view of everything going on in my entire organization. All of my different portfolios. And if you see lots of reds, that will be a problem. What are my risks? And you can then take action and drill down again. So lots of different information available at these different levels. Now, if we drill back down into the project level, as again, we only have a little bit of time today to show you a taster of what we have available. In Spira, we have support for different methodologies. So if you go into, say, the requirements section, this is one of the views we have of requirements. This will be your backlog view. You can see all of the user stories, the features, the epics. You can see them all in a parent-child hierarchy. That's built-in functionality. Doesn't require any plugins for that. You can see right here what's the coverage. What's the testing that's been done on each of these different features and stories. You've got the inline graphs right here. You can also see any of the tasks. So in Spira, we have what are called tasks. They're a bit like Jira subtasks. So if I was to look at a specific story slash, this is a feature actually, but it could be a story as well. If you go into it, you would see this is the item. These are all the different fields we have. We've now got artifact tags. So we've got tag fields, just like in Elastic, just like Jira. We've got the ability to have followers, which is like a watch. You can add people. You can just simply go here and say subscribe. You can add a follower. We do also have, not going to show it today, but we do also have integration with ChatGPT. So I can take a requirement or use a story, and I can generate automatically my tests, my tasks, my scenarios, my risks. That's part of our AI functionality. And here you've got the detailed information. You've got the description of that particular story. You've got things like tags. You've got some user-defined fields like industry, classification, and so on. And then from this one item, you can see right here at a glance, what are the test cases that go with it? These could be manual tests, exploratory tests, automated tests, load tests, security, all of that stuff. You can see all here in real time. And when this all goes green, there's automation built in that can move that particular story from one status to the next. You've also got the ability to track development subtasks, which we call tasks, and those are available right here. So that way you can break up this one requirement into different actual tasks and assign those to different developers and track the progress. And they can see it both in boards and grids and filter on it. And of course, when things happen, when changes are made, there is an audit trail. There is also the traceability from this one requirement all the way to other parts of the system. So I can see from this one requirement any of the defects that we've ever had from it. So if this feature has a lot of defects on the dashboard, I can drill down and see, why are there so many defects? Is there one root cause we should be fixing, or is it just unrelated issues? But you can see all the defects right here. You can see all of the releases this particular feature is available in. You can see, and you can filter this, of course. You can see all the risks we've identified with this one feature. That we've just found a critical security risk. That's a big issue we should worry about. We can also see any of the code commits that are linked to this particular requirement, and we can also see any builds. So this will be a CI build. So you can track, where is this feature? Is this feature being built in a development branch? Is it being built in a feature branch? Is it being built on main? How is it being deployed? So not only can you track this feature, what's been tested, what's been developed. You can track, has it been deployed yet? All of that from a single place. And if you click on these links, they will drill you down into the appropriate part of the system. So if I control click on it, hopefully that Zoom's right in the way. Let me just hide the controls. If you go over here, you can see that commit, and if you click on one of the files, you can see exactly what files have changed. So we have that ability to see inline in the system all of the code changes and what's tied back to that one feature. So that's some of the functionality on the feature side. You can also see the same information in different views. So if you go here, you could see, for example, we've got a document view of these requirements. So if you're working in a more traditional manufacturing, hardware, waterfall, V-model type of environment, you can see all of these requirements and stories and features in a requirements and virtual document. So that way you don't need a separate requirements management system. You can actually use Spiro to do that for you. If you're working on a more agile project, you can see the same information in a board view. And these are our brand new boards we just released, which allow you to see not only the feature cards, you can also see the test coverage and the task progress right here on the main board. If you hover the mouse over, you can see the tooltip will show you the progress of the tasks, the test coverage. Each of the individual tests is linked. You can see it right here. So you have a board view that gives you the exact same information that we saw on that grid as well. Nice thing is that we do support different approaches. You can track in story points, in hours, depending on your methodology. You can set that setting in the system. For Kanban products, we can also view the work in progress limits as well. And we also do have a task board for those who want to be able to track subtasks. So you can track the subtasks and see those tied back to the stories. So we have these different boards all built into the system. Again, fully integrated, different views of the same information. So I could see these tasks, but if I'm working on a waterfall project, I might want to see the tasks in a Gantt chart. No problem. Exactly the same information and now available in a Gantt chart. If I can just expand it down like that. And all these views do have inline editing, of course. So let's go back to the requirements. We also do, I should mention, have a mind map view. So if you are doing any kind of traceability analysis, you can see it graphically. You see all the links in the system. You can trace the links from the initial feature all the way down to the user stories and epics and features and so on. And the color coding is basically the priority. And again, inline editable, not just pre-diagram, but fully functionality. So that's some of the functionality in the requirements section. We also do have a built-in document management system, which can handle, first of all, when you attach documents to a requirement, it gets attached here. We do have versioning of the documents. We have check-in, check-out. So it acts as a document management repository. It can also integrate with source code repositories as well to do that. We track the different versions of the document. We can have different workflows. You can lock documents at different stages. You can have reviews. And you can also natively edit content in the system. So if you're using something like Confluence and you want to be able to write wiki pages, we can do that as well. We've got the ability to support rich text, which is great for people who don't want to learn wiki text markup. But we also do support creating things in Markdown as well. So you can use either rich text or Markdown, whatever you prefer. And then we also do have diagram editing as well. So if you want to create diagrams, we can create diagrams using the built-in diagram editor. We can do workflow diagrams. We can do mind maps. We can do org charts, so different flavors of diagram. And we've also got, here's the Markdown example. And then we also do have a spreadsheet editor as well. So if you are going to do any kind of data-driven analysis, you could decide to do that directly in Spiro using our spreadsheet editor. So these are just some rich content editing functions that are built into the tool, don't require plugins. And then let's move into the QA side of things. So SpiraTeam and SpiraPlan do build off the Spira test management tool. So we have that foundation already available. So you don't need to have an X-ray or a Zephyr or a Zephyr scale or anything else fully built into Spira. We do have this built-in test management tool. These test cases you see here were actually generated automatically by ChatGPT. So that's why there's so many in the root. So it's pretty cool that it can do that. But you can manage all your functional tests, exploratory tests. All of that's managed here in the system. They get organized into test case folders. Each of the test cases will come with the name, the description. So this is the test case. This is the description, preconditions, postconditions. These are the detailed steps for manual testing. We can do data-driven testing with parameters. We can also do automated testing right here. And we can link to existing test scripts. If you've got a Cypress test or a Playwright test or a Selenium test, you can integrate it right here. If you haven't got test automation, Rapise is a fully bundled option you can add to Spira, which is really easy to use and natively integrated. And then, of course, you've also got the ability to do exploratory testing as well using our Spira Capture add-on. So that's how you would build out your test repository. We spend a lot more time on that. couple of key things to mention. When you write the test cases, you can link them back to your requirements. So you can always see the coverage. What does this one test cover? If this one test fails, it's going to break all these features. And if someone was to change one of these features, let's say the spec got changed for one of our user stories or requirements, we might want to know that this test case needs to be checked and make sure it fully covers it. So there's no gap in functionality, no gap in coverage. We do have this built-in suspect feature. That suspect flag will get set automatically if a dependent requirement changes as well. And from this one test case, I could, of course, see all the defects that have been logged during any test event. And I can see all the test runs of this test case. And they could be manual tests or they could be automated tests. And you can easily choose between them right here. From a test scheduling standpoint, we have the test set functionality. These are our test suites. This lets you schedule the test cases both from a manual standpoint by assigning to different testers or testing teams, and it also lets you assign them to automation. So if you are doing automated testing, you can either schedule it through your pipeline tool, and then the results come back into Spira automatically on the pipeline. You can also schedule them directly in Spira, or even a combination of the two. We have several customers that will, for example, want to have their smoke test run every CI event. Every pipeline runs takes maybe 10 minutes. That runs every event. And then depending on what fails in that particular set of smoke tests, they might then want to run a more deeper test that will go, it takes maybe 20, 30, 40 minutes to run, but they don't want to run that unless there's a smoke test failure. So that way you can use your pipeline to run the smoke test and then use our built-in R scheduling to do the deeper analytical test as well. So really up to you. You can either schedule things directly in Spira or use the pipeline to do that. And that's all controlled right here in the test set. You choose the type of test. If it's automated or manual, you choose when you want it to run. If you're going to have us schedule it, you can choose the recurrent schedule and the dates. If, on the other hand, you want to let the pipeline do it, like ADO or GitHub or GitLab or Jenkins or TeamCity or any of the other ones we integrate with, you can do it right here. And if you are using Atlassian's Bamboo on-premise build server, we do actually support that as well. So that's another option. So that's some of the testing functionality. When you run the tests, they fail. Those do log, unfortunately, I guess for you, defects. Then we fix them, which is then good. And so we have a built-in defect tracking. We've got defect tracking boards that look like this. So you can track all the issues, track them, assign them to different people, manage the workload. You've also got a defect tracking grid, so you can see all the issues, bugs, enhancements, all of that. And when you look at a bug that perhaps has been logged from a test case, the great thing is not only do you get the bug report like this, you also get the traceability. You get the description of what the user did, what happened, where it broke, where the failure happened, and there's exact reproducible steps with test data. So that then when you go back to the developer to figure out, why it broke, and maybe the tester finds it's broken, the developer fixes it, but it's still broken, you've got all this information stored with that defect and the link back to the original requirement, and a link to the test result. So you can see the traceability, you can see exactly why something failed and how it failed, and make sure that there's exact reproducible steps and that you're testing the actual same thing that the developer fixed and vice versa. So it really keeps the team on the same sheet of music at all times. And then the last piece I want to go into today is the risk management functionality. Now, this is only in Spira Plan, it's not in SpiraTeam. We had a lot of people looking to use this functionality. This functionality can be used for 3 different reasons. One is sometimes clients just want to be able to do traditional business risk management. They want to understand what are the risks on the project, how do they impact my different features, my different pieces of functionality, and I want to manage those. And so Spira has this built-in risk management module. You can track the probability of a risk, the impact of a risk, and then Spira will automatically capture the exposure for you. And you can then link this risk to different requirements, and you can track mitigations. If they have, let me see if there are any mitigations. Here's a good example. Here's a risk that a .NET library might not support web services. So we've got some mitigations in place to how we would reduce that risk. And as you do that, we can then track the reduction in risk exposure as you add the mitigations, which you can see right here. We reduce the impact from critical to marginal, and the status went from evaluated to an open mitigated risk, and the exposure went down from 15 to 10. The second reason people are using this functionality is they're doing risk-driven development. And that's a methodology where instead of starting with a feature, you actually start with a risk. This is very common in automotive and also becoming more common in life sciences. You start with a hazard, like a person's crossing the road and a self-driving car might crash into them. So that's the risk. And then the functionality would be build cameras or LiDAR radar to prevent that happening. And so you start with the risk, then derive your requirements and your stories and your features, and then your test, your tasks, and all that. So then the risk is actually the first thing you do. So it's a different way of doing development, and many industries are using that. So we do have that option as well. And then the third reason people are using the risk management functionality is for risk-based testing, because we can link these risks using the association functionality to specific requirements. We can then take those requirements, link those to the tests, and then we can tell you which of your tests are the most crucial. If you run these 6 tests, you're going to mitigate almost all of your identified project risk. And that's very useful in situations where you don't have time to run all your tests and you have to pick and choose where the risk will be reduced the most by running specific tests. And so the risk management functionality in augmentation with the test and requirements functionality together gives you the ability to make those decisions very easily and say, what do these 5 tests reduce almost all my risk? Let's run these first. And if we run out of time, that might be sufficient. So it lets you take a risk-based approach to quality. So that's the functionality in SpiraPlan and SpiraTeam. Just to mention, I won't have time to go into it in too much detail. Full reporting and analytics are built into Spira. On the SpiraTeam version, you can analyze across all the projects. You've got project level reports, project level graphs, custom reports, custom graphs, standard reports. If you want to do program level reporting, then you would need the SpiraPlan edition. And SpiraPlan also comes with integration with OData, so you can integrate other reporting tools like Tableau, Power BI, Excel, and various other enterprise reporting tools. So if your company has other systems like, say, a ServiceNow or a Salesforce, and you want to pull reports that grab data from different parts of the company, you can use the OData API that comes with Spira to do that really easily. So we've got about 5 minutes left of our time. So I think I want to make sure we have time for questions. So I'm going to stop the presentation part. What questions do we have, Teresa?
The first one is with regards to documentation requirement compliance, especially for medical device software creation, does the tool allow for supporting reviews and approvals of a document?
Great question. Yes. So in Spira, in the same way that we have it for the other artifacts, and I didn't have time to go through this, so appreciate the good question. We have what's called workflow. And if you go into the administration in a template for a particular set of projects, you'll notice we have workflow, and that's true for requirements, for releases, but also for documents. And in documents, what you do is you define the different workflows for the different types of document, and then you can define the approval right here. So that document might be generated in Spira. And in fact, we can even generate documents. For example, you run a report, generate a test result report, and you want to sign that. So there's an option to automatically publish that report into the document workflow as the first step. Then it becomes a draft document, and then it goes under review. It's signed, approved, and hopefully approved anyway. And when it gets to the completed stage, you can actually lock the document and disable anyone adding comments or changing it, and then it becomes a final product document that can't be edited unless you want to move it back under review, which you have to have permissions for. So it's all permission driven and workflow driven. So we do have that for documents as well as the other artifacts in the system.
Excellent. This one is concerning risks. I noticed that the risk feature had a likelihood and impact drop downs on a scale of 1 to 4. Can that be configured to cover a range of 1 to 5?
Great question. I like it when they have these questions because they're nice and easy. So yes, you can go into probability and you can that's 1 to 5, and you can change the color and you can change the label and the scoring. The scoring controls the exposure, and so we've got linear scoring, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But some companies say that a possible risk is not just slightly more; it's a lot more. So they do 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. They do a geometric scale weighting. So you can control the numbers, the number of them. You can change the scoring, and you can change the labels and the color. That's for probability. The same thing is true for impact as well. So yes.
Excellent. Another question related to risks. Can risks be elevated to issues or incidents if they materialize?
Yes, you can do that in the system. You can turn that risk into an issue. You still have the risk artifact. It still sits in the system, but now you have an issue linked to it, and that issue can then be linked to other things like requirements. So yes.
And while we're talking about risks, I don't know if you had mentioned, Adam, about the FMEA option as well, just because there seems to be a lot of interest in risks. So maybe
Good
you could
question.
speak to that.
Yes, thank you. I again wasn't sure what people would be interested in, so I'm happy to talk about that. So if you go into, I think it's in automotive, I have it set up. Let's see. Risks in Spira, generally speaking, have those 2 factors. They have probability and impact, but we also do have the ability to add a third factor that we call detectability. Yes, this is the right one. So for those doing what's called FMEA, or fault mode effects analysis, you need a third factor. This is common in manufacturing, and the reason being is that in a manufacturing risk, if I can't detect it, then it's unfortunately more risky than if it's something that's easy to see. So without getting controversial, recently Boeing had an issue with a bit of a plane falling out. Now, that had bolts that were presumably very hard to detect, and so that's a much higher risk. Whereas if there's a risk that the engine leg falls off, probably when the plane is being manufactured, that would be an obvious thing you'd see. But if it's something very hard to detect, and maybe it's very subtle, which in this case it was, that's actually more risky. So in manufacturing, you have to look for things that are hard to see, and that actually raises the effectively the seriousness of the risk. And so they use what's called detectability, and they multiply that with the probability in the impact to give you a risk priority number, an RPN, which is like an exposure, but whereas exposure is just probability and impact, RPN, which is the third factor, is the detectability. Put those three together, and that gives you a different number. And so in SpiraPlan, because not every project will need that functionality, we have that available as what's called a Spira app. Spira app is our plugin system, a bit like Jira has plugins, we have Spira apps. For example, we have the ChatGPT one I mentioned. Well, this is the FMEA one, and we set this up ahead of time. And in this one, you specify how that's configured. You specify the values. You also specify the thresholds. And then what happens is you now have a new dashboard widget on your homepage that's the top open risks by RPN. So whereas before we had this top open risks by exposure, this is showing it to you by RPN number, and the RPN number will include those three different factors. And that's really important because it lets you track that in those three different ways together. So you specify the probability, the impact, and the RPN, sorry, the detectability, and that gives the RPN. And the RPN and the changes in RPN are tracked in history just like any other field. So it gives you that auditability and traceability. So for manufacturing risks, unfortunately, there's one more factor to consider, but we do have that available. And that's a free plugin with the system.
Awesome. There's one other question. We just have time. If vendor delivered labels, for example, in edit risk impacts are customized by the user, will they be preserved in an upgrade?
Yeah, great question. Yes, all custom fields, all customizations that you do through Spira apps, all of that is upgraded by our upgrade tools. As a user, there's nothing you have to worry about. And in fact, if you write plugins and if you use our API, that's also protected by upgrade. So when you do an upgrade, any custom field, any workflow, any Spira apps, all of those things are going to be preserved in the upgrade. And in fact, we version our API so we can make that happen from an API standpoint. And the database handles any of that automatically as well. So yes, we make sure all the upgrades cleanly.
Excellent. So I think we're at time now. Thank you so much for the attendees and the robust questions there. Adam, thanks for a fantastic presentation. For those of you that get the recording, you may want to listen to that at halftime because Adam fits in a lot of words in 1 hour.
Apologies. Yeah, I was trying to get everything done in 1 hour, so I hope it wasn't too dense. Thanks so much for attending, everyone.
Thanks so much, Adam. Bye now.